I'm Reed Lundy with Kaizen Speed, and today I'm going to show you how to install our Kaizen Speed rear trailing arm assembly and lightweight staging brake. So you'll start by removing these two lower control arm through bolts. Both are 14mm head. Next, you'll remove this front toe link bolt. It's a single bolt of 14mm head, and then these two 17mm head bolts for the trailing arm bushing. So this EG doesn't have an Ebrake cable. That would be the next thing that you would need to remove. To remove the Ebrake cable, you'll need to go inside the cabin and disconnect the cable from the handle. And then there's also a couple of little stay clamps that hold the cable to the chassis. You'd need to remove those as well. Once those are removed, all that you'll need to do is remove the brake line from the chassis and these two 14mm headed upper camber arm bolts. So we'll start with the brake line. This is a 10mm tube nut. You'll also want to have already put a drain pan underneath this to catch the brake fluid. And then just remove the clip. And then the brake line just falls free. All that you need to do now is remove these two 14mm bolts for the upper camber arm, and the whole rear trailing arm assembly can be removed. So now that all the bolts are removed, we can take the whole rear trailing arm assembly out. So here you'll see the factory drum brake rear trailing arm and the Kaizen Speed lightweight rear trailing arm. So our trailing arm comes complete with everything that you need to bolt onto your car. Only thing that you'll need to reuse is the hub. Now the hub needs to be from a disc brake car, so we already have that here. All you need to do is slide the hub on to the spindle, and then you use your factory washer and 32mm nut to hold the hub to the spindle. Then you just take our rotor that comes with the kit, slide it on, and if you had a factory disc brake car, you can use the factory screws to hold the rotor to the hub. So our caliper that comes with the kit needs to have the brake pads put into it, so you'll need to remove these two pins, and you get access to those by removing this little clip. So just grab a pair of needle nose pliers, compress this, and then you'll be able to pull the little clip out. And these two pins come out, and you'll just slide the brake pads into the caliper, and then slide the pins back in. Here you'll see that the brake pad literally fits in the palm of my hand. It's a really small brake pad designed to be used for staging purposes only, so it should be connected to a hand brake to help you stage the car in a drag race. We use a really small caliper, and you'll also see that the trailing arm assembly is 24 pounds lighter per side for a total weight savings of nearly 50 pounds. So now that we have pads in our caliper, we're going to bolt the caliper to the caliper bracket using the supplied bolts. and then bolt the caliper bracket to the spindle. So all the bolts to put this together are included in the kit. And that's what the finished assembly looks like. So here we have our upper camber arm and bracket. We include all the bolts, this camber arm with the chromoly heims, and these misalignment washers. So you'll need to install the misalignment washer with the cone facing toward the heim. Just put the bolt through and tighten the nut. This is our factory toe link. This is a 3/4 inch chromoly heim joint, and you can adjust toe and wheelbase from this point. So toe is adjusted by loosening these two jam nuts on either side, and then the arm can slide back and forth and adjust your toe. To extend your wheelbase, you'll simply thread this out and then tighten your jam nut, and you're good to go. If you're going to shorten your wheelbase, loosen the jam nut and thread this in. So we have two different bracket options for traction control or rear wheel speed. So this bracket uses the factory ABS sensor and counts the ABS teeth as they go by. Now this is an ABS hub. You don't have to use an ABS hub. Your other option is to use the Hall sensor bracket with the speed sensor available from KS Tuned and Xenocron. This just bolts onto the spindle and it counts the back of the lugs as they go by. Either one of these sensor brackets is available as an option, and they just simply bolt to the back of the spindle. So no custom fabrication is required. They'll literally just bolt on with two 6mm fasteners. So this is the functional toe link bracket, and the toe link will simply slide in and then you'll put the through bolt through. If you chose for a toe link dummy bracket to be legal for certain classes, you'll want the link with the bolt hole in it, or the bracket with the bolt hole in it, to be towards the inside. Because your toe link dummy bracket that makes you legal for class, that bracket will bolt to this hole. So here you'll see a factory control arm and an aftermarket control arm. This control arm is an option. It has spherical heims so that there's no bushing deflection whatsoever when you're extending the wheelbase. This is not required. This is just an option. You can use the factory lower control arm. That'll work no problem. So here you'll see the Kaizen Speed rear trailing arm assembly installed on the car. We just put it back together in reverse order. We put the two 17mm headed bolts that hold the factory rear trailing arm bushing to the chassis. We bolted that on. The two bolts that hold the camber arm to the chassis are included in the kit. You bolt those on, and then the two through bolts between the shock and the lower control arm and the trailing arm assembly and the lower control arm. So now all that's left to do is install the supplied brake line and the supplied brake line fitting. So you'll want to slide your new fitting up into your bracket, then thread the tube nut into the new fitting, and this is held in place with the factory clip. Once that's in place, you simply take the brake line and thread it into place. These brake lines are included in the kit, as is everything that you see here. The kit comes complete with rear trailing arms, camber arms, brackets, calipers, pads, rotors, all the necessary hardware, even brake lines and fittings. So all that you'll need is hubs from a disc brake car. If you have factory disc brakes, your factory hubs will bolt right on. This includes 4-lug and 5-lug.